Welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast, featuring interviews and news about NIL. We also have special episodes to talk about recent news, events, and anything in the world of sports. The podcast is brought to you by Pliable, a full-service marketing company, an NIL agency that educates and empowers athletes to build their athlete brand. Now, here's your host, Glynn.
Thanks and welcome to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. In this episode, we're talking about technology and fan-powered subscriptions. It's going to be awesome. We are going to be joined today by Barrett Garese, who is going to tell us all about FanSpark. And before he does that, we want to hear from him because he's got a really extensive background in technology, where he's actually been involved in the intersection of technology and entertainment for more than 15 years on a roundabout path, but it includes running the Emerging Technologies Department for renowned Innovation Lab, Chief Strategy Officer for a groundbreaking media agency, helping launch the Digital Talent Department at United Talent Agency. He knows a lot. He's worked with big brands, everything from, WB to Disney, Netflix, intellectual properties such as Star Wars, Doctor Who, and the NFL. And we're glad to have him on the podcast. So, Barrett, welcome in.
Thank you for having me, sir. It's good to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. I was inspired by our chat when we talked originally, and I learned about FanSpark, and then I learned about, your background and how you got into this business and why you want to help athletes. So let's first start with kind of your background. It's an amazing decorated past that you have to be in the space where you are now.
Oh, thank you. I started in the traditional entertainment industry. I went to film school. I really wanted to be a director. And getting into film school, I realized two things pretty quickly. One, I did not enjoy being a director. And two, I was really bad at it. And I kind of feel like you can do one or the other, but both is a tragedy. But I really enjoyed producing. So my last year of film school, I ended up producing 13 short films. And after film school, I went to work for a company on the WB lot called Thunder Road. They are most well known right now for doing the John Wick series. At the time, they were not working on that property, but it gave me the opportunity to really learn a lot about the way that big projects like that were created. And one of the things that I also learned along the way is that I didn't want to produce films. So I talked to the head of the company, Basil Iwanek, who said something that was very astute. He said, go to work at a talent agency. They touch every part of entertainment. And if you can't figure out what you want to do there, you don't actually want to work in entertainment. You just think that you do. So I went to work at UTA. I interviewed at a couple different ones. I joined UTA and started in the mailroom. I worked my way up to being an assistant, and then from there, I helped them start the digital talent and digital content division back in 2006. It was right when social media was starting to really pick up, and people were starting to understand that digital content was one aspect of what was coming next, but social media and the ability for individuals to have a global broadcast platform, either for opinion or entertainment or their own, personal publicity or promotion of their projects. The barriers to that were disappearing almost instantaneously, almost overnight. So within UTA, I accidentally became a bit of an expert on social media. It wasn't my intention, it was just my interest, but I became the person that a lot of agents would call when their clients called them and said, hey, my client is asking me if he should be on Twitter or what they could be doing with Facebook, but isn't Facebook college kids? So I'd sit down with them and I'd talk to them and I'd show them how to use social media. And so when I left UTA, that became the first company that I started, which was just a consulting company that worked with actors primarily at first and taught them how to use social media to bolster their career. From there, it led to they made introductions to the people running the projects that they were working on. And then I was helping TV shows and films with their social media strategy. And then those projects kind of bumped me up to working with the production companies as a whole, and then the studios. And then it expanded outward from there to doing a lot of emerging technologies consulting for production companies and studios. It was right when Netflix streaming kicked off, and
Yep.
it was a very similar feeling to when YouTube blew up. It was just, the different type of project that now had a different avenue towards the consumer. So a lot of very big companies knew that things were changing, and they didn't know what was going to come next. And so they talked to me about it, and I helped them figure out a strategy on how to take advantage of what came next. And that led to a number of different opportunities, a few of which you mentioned, including brief side quests of running emerging technologies at an innovation lab and working on things that were, teams of 90 people across 7 different countries, and some of the most interesting work that I've done in my life. I keep coming back to startups though. So along the way, I've had a couple different startups that put me back at my preferred sweet spot, which is the intersection where creative people are given interesting tools and given the opportunity to go directly to their biggest fans. I think there's something really, really magical around the idea that if you give creative people powerful tools, they will create things that you could have never imagined and never predicted. So when we started this company about 2 years ago, FanSpark is our second project, actually. Our first project was in the mixed reality world, which wasn't moving in the way that we expected it to be. But we really saw this opportunity with FanSpark coming out of the last Olympics, especially, and with the shifts in NIL in college sports. We really saw the opportunity to help athletes go directly to their fans and to build a platform that would allow fans to discover new athletes and new sports that they might not have ever had the opportunity to be exposed to. And through that, they could find new athletes and new sports that they loved, engage with them, support them, and find themselves in all new different sports communities and exploring and discovering new sports from around the world.
Yeah,
That's how we get
that's
to today.
amazing. It's amazing because that's really the power of video, and that's the power of the engagement that comes with video. And I know, people are probably wondering, what FanSpark is. So why don't you allow kind of fans to understand, and what also athletes could understand about FanSpark? And I think it's kind of, fitting that, Pliable is so passionate about women's sports. And I know Alona Mar was one of the first people that, you guys looked at.
Absolutely. Yeah, she was a big inspiration. And I'll be clear, she is not on FanSpark. I would love for her to be on FanSpark, but she was a huge inspiration in terms of what we built and why we built it. And at its core, FanSpark is a subscription content platform for athletes that helps every athlete build and monetize a global fan base. You can kind of think about it like Patreon for athletes, where athletes can post exclusive content for their fans, and fans can subscribe to athletes for that content. And athletes get to pick their own subscription prices for their content, starting at $4.99 a month. And we split the subscription revenue 80/20 in their favor. It doesn't cost anything to use FanSpark. Any athlete in the United States can sign up right now for free and start posting content, start posting subscription content, and start going out to their existing fan base that is already paying attention to them and following them on social media and giving them an avenue to directly support them for this exclusive content. Now, some of the big differences that we have from other subscription content platforms is we do not have DMs, we do not have tipping, we don't have ads, and we don't allow AI content on our platform. A lot of that is for athlete safety. A lot of that is because we have a really heavy focus on college athletes, and we want to provide the best and safest scenario for those athletes to be able to feel comfortable having that direct monetary relationship with their fans. but we also want to make it really simple for the fans. Like it's a really easy transaction. You're paying a monthly fee and you get content. You don't have to like, there's no pay-per-view or you're subscribing for this amount and then you have to pay this amount to get the content that you like. We're also very much a PG-13 or lower platform because we do want to be a place where every member of a family can find content and find athletes that they really love. Because sports is a family event. I remember watching football games and baseball games with my dad growing up. It was like a big family event when the Giants went to the playoffs and we would watch them all together. We want to be a platform that reflects that kind of relationship as well. And we want parents to feel comfortable with their kids subscribing to their favorite athletes and eventually their favorite teams.
Especially some of these college athletes that actually think that, oh, it's okay that I have swears in my video or in my music. And I've told them all along, like, I want to be able to go to an event with you, have that parent turn to their kid and say, oh, you're going to follow them on Instagram. Great, go ahead. Right. And then I don't have to worry about, oh my goodness, that kid's going to see that one video, whatever. And that's going to be a quick unfollow for the, parent and the kid. And then, that athlete actually ends up taking a negative hit, you know what I mean? Rather than what should have been a positive experience. So I think it's so important. And I also think because you and I grew up in the same generation, I would have loved to learn more from my favorite athletes who I really was following. You know what I mean? Like I didn't even think what that could have been like because it wasn't available. Like you mentioned, social media wasn't around. I'm an 80s generation, kid. And so I'm thinking to myself, boy, that would have been pretty cool. I mean, you think about what Michael Jordan might have done with social media. I say that a lot because he obviously had one of the strongest brands out there. And imagine if he had created, this content you're talking about, how many people would have subscribed?
Oh, worldwide.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that it creates even a stronger affinity for an athlete. And that's what I love about what you're doing. And also, too, is now hearing your background and film, you understand the power of video. It's a connector.
Absolutely, yeah. And we look at this in social media is in an interesting spot right now because when it first started out, it was all about authenticity, and then it shifted to broadcast, right? Like you have to start with the assumption that the thing that you're making has to appeal to everybody that it comes across on the For You page algorithmically. And so we've lost a little bit of that authenticity that can happen between two people in a digital format, especially with video. So we're working really hard to communicate to the athletes on our platform that yeah, still use Instagram, still use TikTok. There's still uses for that. Absolutely. This is for the top 3 to 5% of your fans who actually do want to engage with the authentic you. It doesn't have to be hyper polished. It doesn't have to be a production team following you around and doing like, 5 days of edits and filters to get to the thing. These are the fans that, like you said, like if you had the opportunity to have a direct relationship with Michael Jordan where he's sending videos out to his biggest fans, would you pay $4.99 a month for that in 1989? Because like I would, I absolutely would have. I mean, I was a Sacramento Kings fan growing up, so maybe not Michael Jordan, but like Vlade Divac, yeah, absolutely.
You've put in some of these, what I call responsible measures, because being in this industry, I know what's out there and I understand the athlete side and especially with sports gambling and everything else that's going on right now. And, obviously bullying and all that kind of stuff. I think it's really responsible what you've done. Talk to me about how you are fostering that relationship.
Yeah, so we have a really strong point of view on athlete safety, and we have a really strong point of view on athlete discovery as well. And within the athlete safety side of things, a big part of it is as you mentioned, there are no DMs, there's no tipping, there's no pay-per-view, there's no betting on our platform. We don't want to put that level of pressure on the athletes where somebody's going to DM them and say, "Hey, I have $100,000 on your game tonight. Don't screw it up for me." Um, our primary athlete focus right now is college athletes. 20-year-olds shouldn't have to deal with that kind of interaction with their fans, and I'm putting fans in air quotes here. We wanted to make it really simple for the athletes to feel comfortable putting content out where every fan is paying the same amount per month and receiving that content. And we also built in a number of tools because we know that sports community can at times be toxic. That is particularly felt by female athletes. And we wanted to put a couple tools in place that let them manage the tone and temperament of their comment section and of their community. One of those is really simple. It's a block. An athlete can block any fan, and what that means is that that fan cannot access that athlete or any of their content anywhere on the platform. They can't go to their profile. They can't interact with any of the content, the subscription content. They cannot resubscribe. And any free content, which is discovery content that's put out on the platform, will not be put in front of that blocked fan. The other one that we have is mute, because again, we're dealing with college athletes. We did not want a college athlete to be dealing with a really toxic fan who is saying maybe really racist stuff in the comments, and then have to make that mental calculus of, this is so bad for my mental health, but I don't want to be taking money out of my pocket. Do I have to deal with this just to deal with the subscription? So we created a mute feature, and that athlete can mute that fan. That fan is still subscribed. They can still see the content, but nobody sees their comments. Their comments go into a black box. They are not notified that they are muted. The athlete can go back later and check to see whether their comments are still the same. The athlete can choose to notify that person, I'm muting you for 30 days or what have you. But we didn't want them to have to make that mental calculus of, is this abuse worth it because I need to pay my bills?
Right.
And I think a lot of social platforms force athletes into that environment, either with comments or with tipping or with pay-per-view. I don't think it's a great environment for athletes. We wanted to create something that was much, much cleaner. The other big focus that we really, really push hard is discovery. Right now,
This feature. So, yeah, tell people about this, because I think this is a great way for fans to find new athletes to love.
thank you. Yeah, we're pretty happy about our approach here. So with discovery, it's really important to us that we get to the point where an athlete doesn't have to have a following on TikTok and Instagram to be successful on FanSpark. We are just starting out now, so we recognize that from the beginning, a lot of athletes are going to be messaging out to their existing social media fans and saying, "Hey, I've got this new platform. Subscribe to me there. You're going to get exclusive content that I'm not posting here." But one of the things that we have built in is we have two types of content on the platform. We have discovery content and subscription content. Subscription content is the content that you've paid to see. It's exclusive, and you have to subscribe to that athlete for that content. Discovery content is freely available for every user of the platform. It goes into a discovery pane, and it encourages fans to find athletes and find sports that they weren't aware of. It also allows athletes to promote themselves to people who may not be aware of them. It's hard to get people to subscribe to you if you can't show them a little bit of what they will find when they do. So we made a content style that is front and center in the middle of our application, to encourage users to go down that road. We've also built a number of other discovery features onto the platform. One of them that we're really proud of is called the Spark Board. It's a leaderboard of content on our platform and creators on our platform. But very critically, it is not based around popularity. It is based around engagement. And what that means from a fan standpoint is that when I go to the Spark Board and I'm seeing the top 25 accounts on the Spark Board, I'm not just seeing who has the biggest profile somewhere else. I'm seeing whose content is resonating the most with fans on FanSpark, which gives me the emotional excuse to explore sports and creators that I don't know about, because I can be sure that that content is engaging. I might not care about cricket, but you know what? That's number 3 on the Spark Board. So there's got to be something there. I'll give it a shot. In a lot of ways, we modeled it after, I think the smartest thing that ESPN ever did was they put the top 10 on SportsCenter. Because you tune into SportsCenter because you want to hear about the sport that you already care about and what's going on with that. You tune in during basketball season to hear about basketball, or football season to hear about football. And then in the middle of SportsCenter, they say, we're going to pause and we're going to show you a really awesome tennis clip. Do you want to watch a really awesome tennis clip? And you're like, well, I don't know, but I'll give it a shot. And then you watch it and you go, oh, all right, that was really awesome. And then they go, all right, we're going to another sport that you didn't care about. And you're like, oh, okay, I'll watch that. I don't care about baseball, but that looked really cool. And they kind of streamline you into caring about sports as a larger general category to explore. We wanted to do that same thing. And that's what we think the discovery pathways that we're building out, that's a pathway we want to go on. And it does mimic, and I'm going to bring it back down to Alona Mar. It mimics a journey that I went on with Alona Mar, who, for anybody listening, if you don't know who Alona Mar is, she's an American female rugby player who was in the 2024 Olympics. She started posting on TikTok and Instagram from Olympics Village. And she went from, I think, 480,000 social followers to just under 5 million during the Olympics because she is smart and funny and charming. And there's also a little bit of novelty of seeing somebody posting from Olympic Village. That's not something that the vast majority of us will ever see. But the thing that it did for me personally that really transformed the way that we look at FanSpark was I ended up watching every single women's rugby match during the Olympics. Not every American match, every single women's rugby match.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that I cared about women's rugby until there was a creator who hooked me into that and introduced me to that world. And from there, I was hooked. And now I do. Now I do care about women's rugby. I just needed that entry point. We want to build out the opportunity for every athlete on our platform to be that entry point for every other fan on the platform to find their sport, to fall in love with that sport, and to get engaged with that sport.
Yeah, I think it's fantastic, and I think it does speak to, especially as you said, women's sports are at a huge moment here to grow and continue to grow, and I think your platform fosters that. There are a lot of, as I've said with NIL, they haven't had this platform before. Now they're able to make money. Now we're seeing money come into the sports. It's going to continue to grow. They have some amazing stories to tell. And now they're going to be able to tell them, in their own words. And they're going to be able to do brand deals, and they're going to be able to tell their story and their adversity that they faced. And I just think it's fantastic what you're doing, and I'd love for you to tell people how they can get more information about it. And like you said, there's just different subscription models. But if an athlete's listening right now, what is the call to action about how they can get involved with FanSpark?
Go to fanspark.pro, sign up. The process takes 5 minutes, and you can start posting content immediately on FanSpark. You can start getting subscribers from day one. Send it out to your existing fans. Tell them that there is a way to support you. Tell them that you're going to be making exclusive content that they can't find anywhere else, and that this is the best way for a fan who wants to see you succeed as an athlete do so. It's the best way for them to support you. It's the best way for them to ensure that you have the opportunity to continue being an athlete.
I hear the athlete voice in me saying, well, how often do I need to post? What are your thoughts on that, Barrett?
I think it's a lot less than people expect. What we recommend is twice a week. And because, again, it is a platform that encourages a higher level of authenticity. Those posts do not need to be as polished. You are speaking to people that already have an emotional affinity for you as an individual and as an athlete. So it can be as simple as, opening up the app and just recording something right there for those top fans, letting them know what's going on in your life, showing them a little bit of your training, showing them your off season or your personality. It doesn't need to be the hyper polished content because these people already care about you. They want the real you, and they want that authentic emotional connection.
Yeah.
So yeah, we recommend about twice a week, and we recommend that it doesn't need to be, over the top and hyper polished.
Yeah.
Authenticity wins.
And then obviously, like you said, FanSpark .pro to be able to find the website, get all the information. And again, kudos on what you've built, Barrett. It's amazing, and I'm excited to see what happens next.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you for having me today, Greg.
Awesome. All right, that is another episode of the Athlete Brand Advisor podcast. I'm Greg Glynn. We're glad you could tune in, and stay pliable, my friends.
Thanks for listening to the Athlete Brand Advisor podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes from today's episode and catch up on recent episodes at pliablemarketing.com. Be sure to follow at pliablemktg on social media to follow athletes who have NIL representation and work with Pliable. Have an idea for our podcast? We encourage you to share topics and guest ideas by emailing our production staff at info@pliablemarketing.com. We love hearing from our loyal listeners, so jump in and be part of the podcast because, well, that's how we roll. for listening to the Athlete Brand Advisor Podcast. Be sure to check out the show notes from today's episode and catch up on recent episodes at pliablemarketing.com. Be sure to follow at pliablemktg on social media to follow athletes who have NIL representation and work with Pliable. Have an idea for our podcast? We encourage you to share topics and guest ideas by emailing our production staff at info@pliablemarketing.com. We love hearing from our loyal listeners, so jump in and be part of the podcast because, well, that's how we roll.